Just keep in mind, like my long-term forecast for Bitcoin is it goes up 29% a year on average for the next 21 years. And so I look out to the year 2045, and I think it's like, base case is 13 million a coin. And it could go faster, it could go slower. But when you think about that, you're like, well, every Bitcoin you sell is going to cost you $13 million. Or if you decide to go buy a Ferrari or a sports car with 3 or 4 Bitcoin or 5, it's a $65 million Ferrari.
Yeah.
So think really hard. Do you want the Ferrari, which will be good, may get you a few dates and people will think you're cool for the next few years. But would you rather have $65 million 20 years out? Because you can retire on that and live a very comfortable life. We say that Bitcoin is on a need-to-know basis. I think that people that discover Bitcoin, they discover it because they need to know about it. And so that need to know comes at different times for different individuals and different corporations and different jurisdictions. If you're living in hyperinflation in Argentina, then you have a need to know. So the Argentinians were some of the early Bitcoin adopters and big Bitcoin advocates. So normally it's people in struggling economies, they get it. And then a company that's well run, that's very successful, doesn't have a need to know, very affluent on the Upper East Side of New York, don't necessarily have a need to know. They come a bit later. But when my company ran into travails and struggles during the COVID lockdowns of 2020, we had a need to know, and we started looking for a solution. So I would say that people adopt and embrace Bitcoin when they run into some challenge in their personal or professional life that causes them to open their mind and think, I need a new idea. I need to embrace a new way in order to move forward with life. The brilliant idea of Bitcoin is digital property. It's cyber Manhattan. I've created a city in cyberspace that's 276 blocks wide, 276 blocks high, 276 blocks deep. You're buying 1/21 millionth of all the money that there's ever going to be in cyberspace. And one day, the 8 billion people are going to want to put some of their money there. And it's the most simple idea imaginable. Do you want to buy 1/21 millionth of all the money in the world for all of eternity? Like the product's going to be the same in 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. So think of it like, buying Manhattan in 1750 and you're 100 years late. And someone goes, you're 100 years late. The guy that's selling you the building paid less than you're going to pay. Aren't you afraid you're overpaying? And it's like, well, I'm going to dump it to a guy in 1770 for more. And that's stupid because you should buy it every year from 1650 to today. And it's the greatest city in America. So why wouldn't you want to own 67 blocks of Manhattan? Just like why wouldn't you own 67 blocks of Bitcoin? So you're never going to be too late if you understand that the future digital economy is going to be built on top of 21 million blocks of Bitcoin. I think the important thing is to understand it not as a digital currency, but as digital capital. Money decomposes into currency, which is the medium of exchange, like the peso, the ruble, or the dollar, or capital, which is a store of value, like a Monet painting, like a really nice penthouse in Manhattan, like a bar of gold, or like a Bitcoin. And so if you think of it as currency, you get really confused because you want to buy coffee with it. But the truth is, no currencies are good stores of value. You wouldn't want to hold $1 million of dollars or pesos or marks or francs or yen or anything for 100 years.
Right.
But, if you go and you ask the question, what did it cost for an acre of land in Manhattan in 1900? What did it cost for an acre of land in Palm Beach in 1900? I live in Miami Beach. The land that my house is on was $10,000 an acre in 1930. Now it's $20 million an acre.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you ask the question, what did your Monet cost in 1930 and what does it cost today? The point really is the people that bought Palm Beach or Hamptons real estate or Monet's or they want to buy Bitcoin, those are not speculators. It's not a 4-year. If you bought a Monet in 1913, and if you had to sell it in 1916 in the middle of World War I mean, maybe you sold it at a loss, but you're an idiot, right? Because 100 years later, it's going to be worth somewhere in the range of 100 to 1,000 times more money. So you should think of it as scarce, desirable property, something that a government can't make more of. I mean, the reason that Palm Beach real estate is valuable is because the government can't make more beachfront in Palm Beach, and they can't. The reason that dead artists are more valuable than live artists is you don't want the artist to make any more paintings. You want the Vermeer to stop painting. You want Da Vinci to stop painting. So you need a cap. It needs to be something which is scarce. It needs to be desirable. And Bitcoin happens to be the most desirable global capital asset. People are buying it because the alternative is to buy a building in Africa, or to buy a bunch of land in Siberia, or to haul a bunch of gold bars, in their car across a border, or to worry about someone spilling coffee on their Van Gogh. It's like once you see it like that, you're like, okay, I kind of like the idea that I can hold $1 million worth of value on my phone and I don't have to worry about someone spilling coffee on it. And if I needed to send it from here to Tokyo on Saturday afternoon in half an hour, I could do it. That's the way to think of Bitcoin.
Michael Saylor calls Bitcoin the ultimate digital property, likening it to owning prime Manhattan real estate in its earliest days. With a fixed supply of 21 million, Bitcoin is scarce, secure, and portable, perfect for the digital age. Saylor explains that people discover Bitcoin when they need a solution, whether facing hyperinflation or financial crises. It's not just currency, it's capital, preserving wealth effortlessly. Bitcoin offers timeless value, enabling anyone to store and transfer millions globally with unmatched ease and security. Michael Saylor breaks down 3 innovative ways to own Bitcoin, depending on your needs. For ease, ETFs like BlackRock's IBIT let you invest without the hassle, perfect for retirees or casual investors. If you want more control, buying Bitcoin on trusted exchanges and storing it with custodians like Fidelity keeps it safe and accessible. For ultimate freedom, self-custody is a game changer, especially in unstable regions. No matter your situation, Bitcoin is the go-to asset for secure, portable, and future-proof wealth. Let's watch more clips from the interview.
I think there are 3 reasonable ways to acquire Bitcoin, and the right way depends upon who you are, what stage of life you're in, where you live. Also, whether you're acquiring it for yourself, your family, or your company, or your government, or institution. And so, if you're an institutional investor and you're acquiring it for your charity or your city or your government or your company, and you just want the economic exposure, you might just buy the spot ETF. And there are spot ETFs like IBIT from BlackRock or FBTC. And every country in the world, right? There are ETFs in Europe, and there are ETFs in Brazil, and there are ETFs in Germany and Australia and the like. And for some people, what they should hold is they should hold Bitcoin wrapped as a security. Now if you're a senior citizen and you just kind of want it in your retirement account or something, and you want to be invested 2% in it or 3% in it, in that particular case, that might also make sense, because you just pick up the phone, call your broker and say, just buy me a bunch of this thing. And you put the phone down after 10 seconds and it's done. And your bank, JP Morgan or Wells Fargo or whatever, Morgan Stanley, they've just done it for you. And it took 10 seconds. And my 86-year-old father is not going to actually self-custody, change jurisdictions, move to another country, and run in a hardware wallet. So for a group of people, that's the right call. For another group of people, they should buy the Bitcoin on on an exchange that they trust, probably a regulated exchange. It depends on whether you're in London, or whether you're in France, or whether you're in Australia or Brazil or the US. Normally pick a regulated, trustworthy entity in whatever country that you have domicile. And then you buy Bitcoin and you buy the commodity. And then I would say for many people, it's okay just to put it into cold storage or put it with a custodian they trust.